All right, in this episode, we talk about activating the lower half
as we enjoy a beautiful night here at LSU Stadium.
All right, hey, this is Brent Porcio with the @Top Velocity #Pitching Tip Show. Special little show today. We're at Alex Box here, LSU, to watch Adam Garcia pitch for the Louisiana Knights. So big shout out goes to the Louisiana Knights. But we want to have fun and get up here and do the show for you guys today. This is where you go to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and @Top Velocity #Pitching Tips. You ask your question and we answer it here on the show. What's the question for today?
Brett Haney asks, what are the ways to activate your lower half throughout your pitching delivery?
Great question, Brett. Of course, we love anything up lower half. Typically, what we focus on, the two things lower half, is going to be the drive leg and the front leg, right? What else would be lower half? But in the sequence of the movement, the drive leg comes first, right? Because that's the first leg that's on the ground. That's the single leg that we start with. So we have to learn, of course, to activate that. We've got to learn to get that linear force vector. That's where the ankle to knee gets somewhere linear as we move our hips forward. I say it points to the front hip, it leads to the front hip, but it has to get into a position to where if we initiated force, we push through it, it would take us as linear as we could to the target. No hops, no jumps. We're trying to take as much force as linear as we can to where it's literally impacted into our front leg and front foot strike. I don't like seeing guys that are hopping with 3X, and I know that's typically where we start. I would just like to see you progress to where that energy is literally being put in at the last minute right into front foot strike. So once you get that vector linear, which is your first lift to load, is where your hips go forward and down at the same rate, and that force vector gets linear. You hold torsion. These are all advanced things, but we have been covering them on the show. If you want to go watch previous episodes, you'll see on the show. And then we want to triple extend, which is 3X. That's extend the knee, the ankle, and the hip flexor before front foot strike. If we can do that in an explosive manner, then we maximize our power going into front foot strike. That would be the first way to activate the lower half. And then the second way actually becomes very important too. And to me, it's in this approach, it's the icing on the cake. It's 2X, and we call it 2X. It's because you don't go into hip extension, right? Because your trunk's moving forward. But after hip to shoulder separation, after stabilizing the front leg, we want to then extend the front leg to generate forces before pitch release. So the timing there is it has to happen before pitch release, and what's going to happen is you're going to go from a flexed knee position to an extended knee position before you go into pitch release. Ideally, if you can hit it at maximum external rotation, that's really what we want, but that's incredibly explosive. If you just look at the time interval you're dealing with, on the average high velocity pitcher at front foot strike, they have about I almost forgot. So 0.2 of a second, or 0.15 of a second until after front foot strike until you go into pitch release. So you literally have, a millisecond or a tenth of a second to get into full extension to hit maximum external rotation. So it's a really challenging interval. So I like to tell guys, let's master that one last. Let's learn first the drive leg triple extension in activating the lower half. You got anything on that?
Yeah, Brent covered it really well. It's kind of hard to follow that up because he pretty much covered all the basis of it, but I'll just try to simplify it a little bit more. It's almost just like driving as much energy as you can off of the back leg and then catching that energy and stabilizing it on the front leg. So like the front leg is like almost like the brakes of a car, like you're slamming on the brakes to let the trunk go forward, or a pole vaulter, like putting the pole into the ground, letting it all catapult forward. So
yeah, it's a great analogy. I've used the car crash analogy, which basically the hips of the car, you're trying to take that down the hill as fast as you can, and then the front leg becomes the wall. You're trying to crash this car as fast as you can into the wall. We don't want that wall to give out. We want that wall to stop the impact, but even better, we want that wall to push back into the car at the last second. that would cause the passenger to fly out, or in this case, the ball. So the car crash analogy is perfect when really understanding the lower half. That's a great question. So if you got a question, go to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and at Top Velocity, #pitching tips. Ask your question, and we're going to answer it on the next episode. So.
Voice.